Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning, and a big welcome to those also who are watching us online. This is a very exciting time for me. This is a very important event for myself and for my executive council colleagues who are sitting here, the front row, to have this conversation with you. Sorry that we can't do this more often, more frequently, but at least once a year we have a chance to have an opportunity like this to have a conversation. And for me, more importantly, to hear from you. This is a great opportunity for us that I'm not hearing your questions just directly from you, but all of us are hearing those questions and comments. So it's an important event. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. What I'd like to do today, want to cover a few topics. I don't want to give you the state of the university address and how things are, because you've been hearing about those. In this day and age, with the technology and everything, every day we have an opportunity to let you know what's been happening at the university. But nevertheless, I'm going to connect three distinct pieces together. I'm going to attempt to do this. I'm going to talk about first some of the things that will tell us about the health of our university, whether we're moving the right direction and whether our university has a very healthy report card. And what are the common elements, the elements that we will say, yes, those are some of the things that we believe our university is heading in the right direction, and it is punching well above its weight. What are those? To me, the first thing is, how are our students doing? How many students are choosing as their first choice university to come and study and have their future made at the University of Waterloo? I'm looking at last year's numbers, I'm looking at the numbers before that, and I'm seeing a very healthy growth in our numbers that we are not concerned about our students not wanting to come and study here. And when I say students, I mean both undergraduate and graduate students, that they very deliberately, they make some important decisions. Probably that's the most important decision that they are making, where they are going to study for university. They choose to come here. You've seen the numbers. I'm very pleased with how we are attracting these brilliant young minds to come to the University of Waterloo. Yes, there are some challenges, system-wide, not just in our province, but in Canada. Overall, the enrollment has a tendency to flatten out and then maybe a drop. Are we concerned about this? Well, we are very much aware of this, but what we believe that the quality of what we do here, what we have to offer, is the magnet that these brilliant students will keep coming to our university. So some institutions, for example, especially in the field of arts, they kept lowering their entry averages so that their enrollment will not suffer. We kept our average at the highest possible level, and we see that, yes, students are still coming here. So I'm very pleased with the number and quality of students coming here. Of course, that is just the beginning of our commitment to our students. What happens after they come here is a completely different picture. We are very proud of our scholarship. We are very proud of our research performance. And as I said this before, while our research dollars are very important, without which we wouldn't be able to a lot of things that we have been able to accomplish, it is not the only performance measurement. Without impact, research income is meaningless. So here, while we achieved the highest level of research income in our history the past year, and we'll continue growing this, our impact is also felt everywhere. A couple of examples. When it comes to, for example, the Syrian refugee crisis, the whole world is suffering from. We have people in our sociology department, Professor Suzan Ilcan, who has been able to very authoritatively inform the world as to what that means. We are talking about energy storage, future of our planet and environment, and how we can store energy. Our chemical engineering professor, Professor Chen, and his colleagues have been able to come up with an absolutely brilliant new battery that could store more and weighs less. And I can give you dozens and dozens of similar examples. So the impact is there. This is something, again, as a university, we are very proud of, and we will continue growing that impact because the world needs that impact. From technology to economy to our social fabric, we will contribute to that. What else can we be really, really proud of? Last year, we were able to hire 99 new faculty members. This is a record number of hiring at any Canadian university, especially if you put it on a percentage basis. We're going to continue doing this because our faculty members are absolutely the engine of what I just described to you, the scholarship and supervision of graduate students and scholarship. Our staff, we continued hiring staff, and in both categories, we added significant net new numbers to our family of University of Waterloo employees. Is it enough? It's not enough, but we are trying to manage a system in which we can improve quality at the same time grow our size. It is linked to many other things that I'm not going to bore you with because it will take a whole day to tell you about the funding formula and how we are trying to manage things. But to give you one little bit of information, we are also acutely aware that we need to be financially extremely well prepared for our future, and that's why Ian Orchard and Deans and the others, they are working very hard to bring the new resource planning allocation model into play, without which I don't think that we'll be able to plan for our future properly. We are at the same time, Maria Caniglio is leading a group for our strategic enrollment management. Those pieces are all coming together and telling us that, look, this is a very good picture here, but don't sit back. Don't sit back and enjoy your coffee too much because you have to also keep working on these things. Otherwise, next year I won't be able to give you, or the year after that, the same kind of picture. So the second piece I want to touch on is what is happening outside the university. You quite often hear, either on the news or newspaper, that we have concerned employers, that they don't have the kind of talent that they think they need to grow their enterprises and businesses. So there is a direct reference to the universities and how they educate their students. We talk to the students. They have some sort of anxiety about their future. They are making a big investment with their time, with their life, and with their resources, with their money. And how are they going to see the return back? We talk to their parents who are also concerned about the future of their sons or daughters. Then we talk to the governments who are saying something completely different, but nevertheless saying that, well, we're looking at you and we want to see that you are providing us with some answers for the growth of our economy and its recovery. So there are a number of externally driven pressures that are also coming towards us. And regardless of how the first picture I tried to draw, how exciting that is, with all these things, you're saying that, look, there is something different that needs to be done. And the third piece is, while we are now trying to plan for, not for today, for our future, are we going to make some really quick knee-jerk reactions and say, well, let's jump on this, thing, it sounds very good, and the government of today or the business of tomorrow, they'll be happy with those. This is a very critical issue for us, that as a university, we need to understand the most fundamental values, principles that this university and many other universities are standing on. We should never forget our primary responsibility as a place to produce the kind of new knowledge and scholarship we are expected to, we are committed to, and to provide the kind of intellectual environment for our students that they could grow in that environment. Not only, as the video said, it's a place where you get your degree, it's a place that you transform into a different type of person. So are we going to listen to some of the pressures and say, well, we're going to change everything, I think everything should become online education, or are we going to say that what we care about is the quality and impact of what we offer to our students here? What we care about here is the deepest, most fundamental level of research that will provide all the ingredients to whatever you want to do afterwards. Those are the very basic, fundamental principles and values that I don't think that we should ever forget. So this is the environment in which there are a lot of external pressures trying to give us one direction. And we're saying that, look, we are committed to those basic principles, but we are not embedded in the 18th century's principles either. We are able to see the future a little bit as best as we can, and we have the ability to stay true to our basic principles, but be able to respond those needs of the society in general. So how do we bring all these together? Last week at the Board of Governors meeting, we had a similar conversation, not exactly the same, but a similar conversation, part of which was when we say one of our most important characteristics is experiential education that we're very proud of. Is this something that is response to a conversation that started 3-4 years ago that we said, oh yeah, we should do that too? Or this is something that we were born with? When we talk about entrepreneurship, we are very proud of our achievements. A few weeks ago, we had an event in Toronto at one of our company called RL Solutions, started by a University of Waterloo student. Extremely successful. Their software is being used at 2,000 hospitals around the world. And in his own words, said, the only tool I had before walking into this startup with my own credit line and credit cards, that's how I funded it. I was very confident. This is the most important thing that my University of Waterloo education gave me, my confidence to be able to do that, because I knew I had what it took to provide answers. There could not be a stronger endorsement of what we're doing here. So is entrepreneurship something that, just because the conversation started a few years ago, we said, hey, let's go and jump on this bandwagon because it sounds good? No, this is another thing that we were born with. So how do we then tell the whole world that, look, we are unconventional, we're different, we are very proud to be different because these are the characteristics with which, these are the very specific qualities with which this university was created. And we are not stopping there. We understand the changing world quite well, as best as we can. We have wonderful tools to do this, and the most important one is our students who constantly go in and out and bring us all this very relevant information. So with that, we thought that we could try to say this in this publication. It's the Defining Tomorrow. We call this is our second State of the University report. And in there, we try to identify our very important, very fundamental characteristics. But more importantly, we are throwing an arrow into the future and say, this is where we are going. Where we are going is the most important, most exciting part of what's happening here now. I don't see I have strict instructions from Ellen. In 20 minutes, she's going to turn my microphone off, so I'm watching her very carefully. This is what we are concentrating on, we are interested in. As I said before, we are immensely proud of where we are today. We do not have a moment to sit back I said coffee, but you could use other drinks to enjoy the moment. Yes, let's take a minute and be very proud of our accomplishments. We have tremendous responsibilities to our students, to our communities, to our society, to our country, to make sure that we're fulfilling our objectives. And I have every confidence that we are getting there, because I know that you want us to do this. You're committed. And again, I thank you for your fantastic participation. We wouldn't be here today having this conversation without your commitment and your participation, and without your excellent, hard, and fantastic work. So I will stop here. I have no idea how much time I spent, but this is all I wanted to share with you this morning. There's a lot to be discussed and said, but at this moment I want to stop, and I'm really, really interested in your questions. I'm going to invite Ellen to come here and moderate some of these questions. I should tell you that I'm so delighted with all the questions that you already sent in advance. I'm expecting a lot of questions from the floor. This is also exciting. We may not have enough time to cover all questions. So I will, and my colleagues here, they will be answering some of the questions. We will keep our answers short. Please, when you're asking a question, keep it as short as possible, but enough that we know what the issue is. If we are not able to answer some of your questions, Matt and others, we will be posting all the questions on a website specifically for the town hall, and together with the answers. So audience will know what those questions are and also the answers. So with that, I will stop and turn it over to you, Ellen. Is this, we're ready for this?
Thank you, right on time. So, question and answer period. Before we start, I just want to remind those of you online and even in the audience here that, and you've seen it on the screen behind us, there's a number of ways to continue to send in questions as we go through the live session, the town hall session today. So Twitter, @UWaterloo Live, or the hashtag UWTH, and also by email. And you're familiar with this email address now, townhall@uwaterloo.ca. Just a couple of things before we get started, Ferden, and we have so many good questions for you today. I was really amazed at how sincere they are. So clearly a very engaged campus. I'd like to introduce Aaron Miller. So the far left, Aaron is the manager social media, and he'll be our moderator for the online discussion today. And just one more thing before we start. The entire campus would like to say happy birthday to our president. So happy birthday, Ferden. This town hall was just for you.
I told everybody at home that no more birthdays. But
So I'm going to start with a question we've received, as I said, many, many emails, questions by email, some on social. There was one that was particularly special, I felt, because Perrin, both from a leadership perspective and also your personal journey, I felt that you could answer this and provide a very thoughtful answer. So let me cue up the question here. I have just completed my MBET, so my Master's of Business, Entrepreneurship and Technology at the University of Waterloo. I've had 1 year in Canada and with my wife and my 13-year-old son. As an immigrant to this beautiful country, I would like to ask the President, what is your advice to newcomers in Canada? How do we succeed and not give up on our personal entrepreneurial endeavors?
it's a question that requires a lot of time, but briefly, the student made a very important decision. First of all, taking the MBET program. It's a fantastic program, especially I presume it's a he. If he is entrepreneurial oriented and wanted to get that experience. So the program itself will give him a lot of good ideas what to do with. If you have that passion in you, if you want to try something as an entrepreneur, there is no way that anybody can stop you. If you have the bug in you, there's no stopping. So I will say just follow your instincts. Make sure that you share everything with your family, because it is not a rosy path in the beginning. It's very exciting, but it has a lot of risks. The outcome could be fantastic, but it could be a long journey. So for that one, make sure that you're not compromising your family members, and you're doing this all together.
That's a wonderful, wonderful advice. Thank you, Ferden. Now, as I said, we have so many questions, but first I'd like to look to the audience and see if there's any immediate questions from the audience. And if not, we'll certainly be coming back as we go back and forth between our online discussion and our discussion here. Okay. Ferden, another question we got by email. This is a question from a co-op student about international opportunities. So we're all very aware of the work that the university has done over the past couple of years to really build a global footprint with very top-level institutions around the world. And I'm thinking of Bordeaux and Karlsruhe and KAIST and Nanjing, among others. So the student asks, I am a co-op student and I would love the opportunity to work internationally. However, when I look on JobMine, most international jobs are for engineering and computer science students. What is UWaterloo, and specifically CECA, doing to attract more non-tech international employers?
I will just say that I'm delighted with the interest of this co-op student wanting to do an international co-op job. It's co-op, as everybody will agree, is a fantastic, again, signature of this university, and to add an international experience to it is fantastic. I will turn it over to Rocco or Jodine to tell us what is being done to add non-engineering or science or technology jobs.
It's here.
Thank you, Ferden. I'll try to give you an answer that kind of gives you some insight into what we're trying to do. The international jobs are very difficult to develop. They're long distance, and there's lots of things that you have to do to produce opportunities that exist in different countries. For most of our jobs, the leads come from the students themselves, who have taken initiative to it's part of our entrepreneurial spirit and risk orientation, is to kind of go out and find these things themselves. So a lot of the leads for new jobs come from students themselves. Right now, the majority of jobs are taken up and led by students who are from our science and math and technology areas, engineering jobs and that sort of thing. So what we're trying to do is to leverage those opportunities, work with some of our partner institutions around the world to open up opportunities that are in different discipline areas and different sectors. And I think over the next few years, we're hoping to be able to increase the number of opportunities that students can have that are outside of our engineering areas.
Thank you, Rocco. I'm just looking to the audience again to see, quick scan to see if there's a question before we move on. Okay, I've got another question here. And what's interesting, Ferden, today was we heard from faculty, we heard from students, we heard from staff, this full breadth of questions. So this is a question related to staff, and this is through email. And then I'm going to look to Aaron, and we'll take a couple questions from our online discussion. So the question reads, as a manager, I was able to send staff to counseling when there was a need. However, recently I was told that the university currently does not have counseling services for staff. In light of the mental health initiative that Waterloo is promoting, as well as given that there are over 2,000 staff members on campus, will this service be reinitiated?
From what I heard from Marilyn, I think we have a very good answer to this question. So Marilyn, would you?
Thanks, Ferden. And yes, indeed, we have heard from faculty and from staff the need to have on-site counseling services. As an interim measure to a more expanded program, we are working with the Staff Association and the Faculty Association to work with counseling services to expand services that would be available to staff and faculty in the immediate. Our plan is to go to market and have an employee family assistance program that is quite more extensive than we currently have available, that would be global in nature, so it wouldn't matter where the faculty member, where the staff member is, or whether on vacation or whether on sabbatical, it would be available. and be available 24/7. My experience has been that in many cases, the need for counseling services is not confined to the workday, Monday to Friday, and 2 o'clock on a Sunday morning can be equally as challenging for people. So our plan is within this fiscal year, within this budget year, to have a service that's far more extensive than we currently have, and we really appreciate counseling services adding resources for us in the interim so that we'd be able to respond to the need immediately.
Thanks, Marilyn.
We have a question here. Thank you very much, Marilyn. As a staff member, that sounds remarkable.
Can I take your job for a second?
Yes, please.
I know that one of our colleagues had a question I wanted to ask here. So Professor Shangu Lee here, he has a question, I believe. Shangu, you want to ask your question here?
Well, Mr. President, I guess that I emailed in my question, and perhaps best not to discuss in the open in this environment because it involves too many things that happen kind of recently. If it's okay with you, let's not kind of dragging too much time here.
I appreciate it, but if I could just quickly summarize the question is, some of our faculty members, they are questioning about the new financial reporting system in terms of their research accounts and some other elements attached to them. As this is something that we discussed at Senate last Senate meeting. Unfortunately, some of these things are imposed on us by the granting councils, and we don't have a lot of flexibility, but we will continue reviewing our processes and make sure that there are no redundancies, or we do not unnecessarily put extra pressure on our faculty members for financial accounting. There was a question about the credit card issue. I think I'd like to give the answer to you now. So if Ian, if you could talk about the credit card, what it's about, and what we did about it.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thanks for emailing the question in, which we very much appreciate as some advance notice. The question revolves around imposition of certain legislation to do with Citizenship and Immigration Canada. Many of you will know that they changed regulations around temporary foreign workers, visas and so on, which caused a bit of concern since that captured our recruitment of international faculty members if they were outside of NAFTA and so on. But then in February of this year, they imposed an employee compliance fee for visitors to the campus, $230 fee. So if a researcher brings in a variety of people, and these are defined in that legislation, then they have to apply for and get a compliance form for that. This fee was implemented with 2 days' notice, and the fee can only be paid by credit card. Faculty members were blindsided a little bit on this. One can use the P card, the University of Waterloo card, which is linked to one's research grant, and pay through that vehicle. Unfortunately, not all faculty have a P card or a University of Waterloo card linked to their grants, and so had to use their own personal credit cards and then claim the money back from their grants later on. This is something that, along with the temporary foreign workers changes, U15, Council of Ontario University's executives are working diligently with Citizenship and Immigration Canada to try and improve the system as we go forward. But this was certainly imposed at very short notice in February, as I said, 2 days' notice, and we're trying to cope with that. I appreciate the question, though.
Thank you, Ian. So as I mentioned, we're going to go now to Aaron Miller and see what's happening online. Aaron.
I'm not sure if the mic's working. Oh, we've seen a lot of great conversation already started, and if you're in the audience and you'd like to participate, we have all the ways that you can participate right here by asking your questions. Right now there's a lot of talk about one of the words that we associate with the university quite a bit, innovation. And some of the questions based around that. One of the interesting ones, we had a couple people from the Faculty of Arts who are wondering, how does arts fit in with Waterloo's innovation ecosystem?
Fits in beautifully, right, Doug?
I think Doug got stuck somewhere. He
No, he's there. He's there. Yeah.
He's right, yeah.
I think when we talk about innovation, our objective is not to constrain innovation in specific faculties. And if I could open it up, innovation is not the sole definition of STEM-based disciplines. Innovation covers everything from one corner of the university to the other. So we very much we are committed to making sure that innovation, the Faculty of Arts, takes place inside classrooms, outside classrooms, in new program designs, and everything that their students do. When I go to the Velocity, and Mike Kirkup is here, he could give a better example, but some of the students who have these brilliant startups, they are arts students, Faculty of Arts students. And if anybody would like to see a built example of innovation in arts, just take a drive up to Stratford and you will see our campus there. That is a prime example of how Faculty of Arts can innovate.
Great. We had another very specific question that says, I pay $658 in co-op fees. Where does that money go?
Goes into very, very, very good places. That's how we are able to provide all the services to our students. That's how we are able to hire 200 and how many, Rocco? 240 people. And that's how we are able to go and recruit thousands and thousands of employers from Canada and around the world. Just a very quick snapshot of what happens to that money. Anything else you'd like to add, Rocco? Or?
With the help of the imprint that broke down kind of where the co-op fees go. So if you want to look back on the website, you can find that breakdown and give you a better idea of how the funds are distributed.
Our central social media accounts. And Ellen, I just have one other question that just came in that's quite good as well. They're asking, why do international students pay almost 4 times as much as Canadians for the same education? The person who's asking this knows there's some difference due to government subsidies, but that they don't believe that accounts for the entire difference.
Yeah. I will say 2 things, and I'll turn it over to Ian, or you answer it. I mean, first, our current fees for our domestic students is not, together with the government grant, it doesn't cover the full cost of their education here. So it's not, so the equation is not balanced. And number 2, this is an environment, our fees are not much different from the fees of any other institutions in Canada.
Thank you, Feridun. Maybe I can expand on that. We get funding from 2 sources for students. The first is from government funding. Ontario funds with basic income units, BIUs. They will only fund domestic students. Some of the provinces actually provide BIUs for international students. That is not the case in Ontario. The other source of funding is tuition. And so for domestic students, we get BIU funding from the government plus tuition. From international students, we only get tuition. Ontario is still essentially last place in all the provinces in providing per student funding, no matter which way you slice and dice that. And so we've been arguing with the government that the BIU itself is not sufficient to fund the education of our students. And hence, the international student fee has to cover not only tuition, but the lost income from basic income units and the fact that the basic income units are not as high as they should be. Other provinces provide up to double the BIUs for domestic students, and those same provinces also provide that funding for international students. That's not the case here in Ontario. We've also looked across Canada, our competitors. We look at U15, U6. We look across Ontario universities. We're actually quite a bit below the U15 and U6 universities in terms of our tuition. In some cases, we are maybe 50% to 70% of that charged by some of our competitor universities. So I think we still provide a very valuable education for the cost of the international tuition. And that's demonstrated by the fact that we have so many international students who choose to get a degree from the University of Waterloo. We are second in the province in the total number of international students, only second to the University of Toronto.
Thank you, Ian. Just a quick scan of, oh, here's a question from the audience. The microphone's coming.
Oh, I have a loud voice.
Still needed for.
Good morning, and thanks for putting this on. Michael Hertz, President of the Staff Association. I have a question about Excellence Canada. The website people are very happy about what's stated there, that you plan to roll out Excellence Canada across the university. But I have two small questions. Number one is, what are the hopes, big picture hopes for deploying Excellence Canada throughout the university? And just another question too, some staff are very concerned about the additional workload that'll place on them to actually run the program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Marilyn, would you? I think she can speak to this question.
Thanks, Michael, and congratulations on President of the Staff Association for this year. We look forward to working with you. We have made a commitment as a university that we will implement Excellence Canada quality standards right through the university. It isn't a program as such. Excellence Canada provides standards, and we measure ourselves against those standards. And so it isn't a case of, there's a lot of work that's associated with putting a program in place. We believe that as a university, we already achieve quite a high level of quality. The library agreed to be the pilot site for Excellence Canada bronze level. And in a moment, I'm just going to pass it over to Mark and talk about how it changes our workplace. Why is it that we've embarked on this, and how are we different as an organization? And I think that's the key part with Excellence Canada. How are we different as an organization from having gone through this process? Our plan is that it's implemented throughout the university. We're now working with two faculties, the Faculty of Math and the Faculty of Applied Health Sciences. And next month, we're going to be bringing 4 new administrative departments online with that. We don't anticipate truly that there will be as much increased workload associated with it as much as we need to verify that we actually meet those standards. So Mark, I don't know if you want to speak to.
So I may perhaps, Mark, just a few additional comments given the number of
Why don't I
questions we
just
have
make
today.
2 quick comments. One is the process, the Excellence Canada process, the bronze process, was very useful simply because it provided an external framework that allowed the library staff in the university to look at how were we doing from that standard. And I always think it's good to get another view to say, all right, from a point of view of excellence and innovation and wellness, and I always emphasize the wellness aspect, that it's important that we look at that. It's also set us up, and Pascal Clarko, who's in this room, and he's our associate university librarian, he's leading the next process for the silver certification. That process has actually provided us with the opportunity to engage all library employees a lot. And so it's provided from that point of view, it's been very beneficial from an engagement perspective.
Thank you very much, Mark. I think we have a question towards the top here. A hand up. Thank you.
So the WISER Institute defines social innovation as programs or products or processes that fundamentally change flows of relationships or resources or power. So my question is the University of Waterloo open to social innovation within the university? And can you give any recent examples of how people have innovated within the structure of the university to change resource power or internal flows? Thank you.
I'll start with this, and then I'll see if one of my colleagues will jump in. Yes, very much so. When we talk about innovation, social innovation is an integral part of it. You can look at, for example, St. Paul's greenhouse is part of that social innovation angle. There are innovations taking place at the university as we speak. For example, our sustainability report covers quite a bit of those innovations that we have already undertaken in terms of our energy footprint and environmental sustainability issues. So we are practicing it here at the university, but we are also providing this opportunity to our students as well to bring that social innovation part in. Anybody else?
Jason? And then we've got another question here.
So just from the information technology perspective, when we talk about innovation, one of the projects you may be familiar with is Portal. And what that is it's really, traditionally we look at our information systems and they're kind of built for a specific purpose, and maybe user interface isn't top of mind. And what Portal's doing is kind of revolutionizing how students are interfacing with the data that the university has. And so that combined with a lot of the infrastructure behind that, so for example, the Open Data Initiative that we're looking at, and just making the data available for students to use in different ways. And I think that qualifies because you've got, not only do you have a change in power because the data is now in the hands of the students and they're using it in a different way, you're also looking at a change in resources because not only is it university resources dedicated to solving those problems or challenges with working with data, you've also got the entrepreneurial aspect of student development, hackathons, things like that.
Thanks so much, Jason. Jason's a colleague from IST. So we have a question here. Fourth row, thank you.
Good morning, thank you. My name is Joanna Ochoca. I am with the Center for Community-Based Research. And I have a question about social innovation and research and community engagement. I promote and can conduct community-engaged research that lead to social innovation. The question is, what is the vision for University of Waterloo to facilitate community engagement in research and nurturing the supportive environment for faculty and students to conduct this type of research that leads to social innovation?
So in terms of the research component, right now we have a large number of faculty members. They are graduate students. They are involved in various aspects of community-based research. And the university, of course, we could never tell our faculty members, this is the area you need to work on, that's the area. These are the areas that they're passionate about, they're curious about, and they're conducting their research. I believe through the Office of Research or faculty offices, we could get a whole list of what those are. So what are we doing in terms of bringing them to the next level at the innovation level? As I said, there are various vehicles. We have some plans right now to integrate St. Paul's Greenhouse, which is part of our social innovation platform, into the broader aspect of university's innovation platform. Mike, do you want to add anything to it, or? Okay. I got the thumbs up from him, so that means.
Thanks very much, Ferdinand. We have a question from the floor. I'm going to take two from online first, and then we're right back. Aaron.
One of the great things about having these conversations on social media is that we actually, as we bring something up here, we have another piece of the conversation going on online. So when we talked a little bit about more counseling services for staff, we had a few questions about how is that going to impact student counseling services, and especially with students paying a lot of the money for that resource as well.
Chris?
The resources that Marilyn mentioned that are being added in the short term to cover faculty and staff counseling will be net new resources and won't negatively impact student counseling in any way.
Thanks, Chris. Aaron?
And then we had another 2 or 3 questions, actually, just asking generally about the future of the university's commitment to athletics and recreation programming.
Back to Chris.
This happened at one other town hall meeting. lot of conversations over the last year or so about athletics and recreation on campus, and really valuable conversations with our students who fund a lot of the program, as well as the university administration and other community members. And I think we're really well positioned right now to start solidifying our space in both those areas. So on the athletic side, competitive sport, which is a really valuable part of our student experience, but also can be a really good rallying point for the institution as a community. And as well, on the student recreation front, that's really important part as well of our student experience and touches thousands of students every year. We're looking to invest in facilities, coaching, training programs, and that kind of thing. So I think you'll see a lot more announcements and a lot more programs developed in the coming year, I'd say.
Thanks very much, Chris. We've got a question from the floor. Go ahead.
Might become another Chris question. So Chanakya, student senator, and my question was regarding school spirit and how potentially we could tie innovation to that. So traditionally, school spirit is defined by athletics and the stuff that sports teams do. But like we at Waterloo are lucky because we've seen extreme successes in the entrepreneurial and the innovation front. So is there an opportunity where we could tie innovation and entrepreneurial successes to the overall school spirit that we have? So it's not restricted just to athletics, but to the successes and the things that have come out from that front.
Good point, Chanakya. I mean, we talked about this quite often. From time to time, I have an opportunity to sit down with groups of students and we talk about various subjects, and the school spirit issue comes up at every conversation that we have. They want to be more engaged. They want to be, when they graduate from this university, they say, well, we want to take it with us. And they have part of it, but the question is, how do we really amplify it? How do we grow it? Part of this, as you mentioned, athletics does to a certain point, and hopefully when our football team and the others start winning, and this is going to grow more. But the point is, it's through communication, it starts before even our students set their foot onto our campus, and then how do we bring them all together during orientation, and how do we continue that momentum while they are immersed in their studies? We need a better physical space for us to be able to interact with each other. We need even stronger communication tools. So these are some very active conversations that we're trying to find better ways to raise that school spirit. It does exist, but we can go a notch higher, for sure.
Thank you, Ferret. And we've got another question from the floor, and then I've got a really interesting question for you that relates to teaching. It's important.
Thanks. I feel really bad I made the pages work so hard. So I'm a relatively new staff member, and in my position I've had a lot of opportunity to talk to people from different departments around campus, and one of the things that seems to keep coming up is this concern over the next decade or so of how many people are going to be retiring. We've seen a lot of retirement notices lately, for sure. I'm just curious if there's any central plan or direction around succession planning, or you talked about sort of hiring 90 new staff members, but that was more in terms of growing as a university. I'm thinking more building in some redundancy, getting some knowledge management done so that we're not seeing a big loss in the information that we have and the skills that we have as some of our aging staff start to retire.
We started working on this question about 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, that we are building a comprehensive succession planning strategy so that we will not be in a position that when somebody decides to leave the university or retires, then we won't be just running around and trying to find a replacement for that person. There are various programs, not mostly on the staff side, but even for senior administration and some faculty. Faculty part is different, but from the staff side and senior admin, we do have It may not be as comprehensive as we would like it to be right now, but nevertheless, there is a succession plan, and we are trying to grow it more. Anything else you want to add, Marilyn? Or?
Just to add that.
I would just wait for a microphone. Thanks, Marilyn.
Just to add that when we look at the demographics of our workforce, it isn't quite as ominous as we would think. We've been really successful in our hirings into positions as they become vacant, and we actually have a nice distribution right through the age groups, right through the service years group. So we're not in the position that many employers are in, having a foreboding that there will be a huge drop-off in the workforce. We're just not seeing it in our demographics.
Thanks very much, Marilyn. I have a question that came in by email, and it's going to be followed up by a question from the floor, a colleague sitting by our videographer just at the back. And then I'm going to online. So Ferden, we perhaps don't talk quite as much as we should about the excellent teaching that we have on this campus that enables us, it's one of the reasons why we attract such absolutely top-notch students. So this is a very good question. What does innovation look like for the 40% of our jobs that is teaching, and how do we measure and assess?
I'm going to ask Mario to answer that, but I should say that all the questions are excellent.
Aren't
so
they?
You don't need to say they are excellent. They say they're all excellent. Mario?
Great, thank you. Innovation in teaching is something that we really need to pay a lot more attention to, and I think we're certainly headed in that direction. A number of the initiatives that are being put forward, or rather seeing development through the Center for Teaching CTE, are basically focused on enhancing the abilities of instructors to do their job to their best potential. We also see innovation in teaching as something that we like to see come right from the grassroots. We can put structures or incentives in place to say we want our instructors to do a better job of teaching, but really that inspiration, that creativity has to come from the grassroots. We do everything we can centrally to enable that to happen. So with CTE, with a variety of initiatives that we have articulated in our strategic plan as it relates to academic programming, certainly focusing on innovation in teaching as part of the general aspiration of excellence in teaching is something we're definitely headed toward.
If I could expand it just a little tiny bit more. Thanks, Mario. We are deeply committed to teaching and learning excellence here. And we will, through our either Center for Teaching Excellence or other avenues, to make sure that we will provide every possible support to our faculty members as well as our graduate students who may have teaching or faculty position as their career choice. If I could go back to the days that when I started as a faculty member, I was told, here are the courses that we believe you said you would like to teach. Good luck to you. Here is the classroom. With no support whatsoever, and I still scratch my head on how did I survive in that environment? The only way you could do this is your commitment. You look into your students' eyes and say, well, I have to do my absolute best. And this is the part when you start innovating, you coming up with your own homemade techniques that you could be a very effective teacher. But we have changed this significantly. We are not the only university doing that, but at the University of Waterloo, our Center for Teaching Excellence, if you haven't checked it out, please go and check its website or just walk in and talk to Donna Ellis. Their support to our faculty members and graduate students is just fantastic.
So we have a question from the floor. Thank you, Ferden. We have a question from the floor, but I think you wanted to add to the teaching conversation. So we'll go here first.
Hi, I'm Trevor Holmes, not Donna Ellis. Donna is away today, so I'm acting director for Donna Ellis from the Center for Teaching Excellence. And I think that just to pick up on a theme that I heard at the very beginning today, we build on some stuff that we've been doing for a long time. We have one of the oldest teaching centers in Ontario, in Canada, in fact. Since 1976, you may not know this, but faculty members have quietly been coming to have consultations about innovating in their teaching with our instructional developers. But in the last 8 years or so, it's become a much more public conversation in which people are getting together for retreats to talk about their whole curriculum and building innovation into that whole curriculum much more intentionally. So they're rethinking things like credit hours. Is it the case that we always have to have exactly the same number of credit hours per course? Could a quarter credit course happen in some way that is experiential? This goes back to some of those questions about social innovation as well. Are there ways that we can get people into the community? Are there ways we can actually leverage the co-op experiences back into the curriculum? So actually, this conversation about innovation is happening on campus, and the students themselves are often telling the departments how best they might be able to engage in this way. So,
Thanks so much. So,
hi, Jonathan Strauche, PhD student in Environment and Resource Studies. My question is about the sustainability report that just came out, and specifically about greenhouse gas emissions. So when we look at the impact side of climate change, there's a wow factor there. Wow, this is really bad. When you look at some other universities, innovation leaders like Stanford and MIT, I had a chance to do a tour of Stanford's new heating plant and learn about their sustainability actions, and there's a wow factor there. They're doing huge things, really deeply cutting their greenhouse gas emissions, and same with MIT. I was concerned in the sustainability report to see the conversation revolve around emissions intensity and per square foot, and I understand sort of the reasons behind that, but I'm curious to hear whether the university is going to make some sort of wow kind of commitment or wow kind of action to really cut carbon emissions, period, and really be forward-looking. I think it fits the brand that you're talking about today.
You're touching on a very, very important topic that we are deeply concerned about as a society, as a university, and that is starting from climate change, then our health of our environment. I'm going to very soon ask our Dean of Faculty of Environment, who is, together with Dennis Huber, they are the co-chairs of the sustainability group. But it's easier for Stanford to say those things than us because they don't need to heat their campus as much as we do. But I believe in our sustainability efforts, and just don't look at a 1 year. You go back 10 years and then see the unbelievable progress we made in terms of our carbon footprint. It is a significant achievement, and I'm very proud of this. Is this enough? No, but that is not the only way that we are addressing this. There's tremendous amount of work that's coming out predominantly from Faculty of Environment. You know it quite well that we are addressing these issues. Perhaps, Jean, you could add a little bit more.
I can add just a little bit, and I know we've had conversations before. I mean, the whole world is going to be focused on this issue later this month as they convene in Paris, as we know. We have a new federal government. We have an Ontario government that's made commitment. There is no doubt that all institutions, including ours, are going to be thinking very seriously about this issue. But it's not just about the wow commitment. It is about the incremental changes. And so, I agree with the point that's been made. As we begin to track what's been happening, much like the teaching thing, there was a lot happening quietly. Is it enough? In my view, no. But I think we're moving forward, and the fact that we now have a sustainability commitment, that it's focused not just on the facilities and the plants, but also on human behavior, on academic programming and environmental education broadly, I think we're on the right track, and together I hope that we'll be really proud of our achievements in the next few years.
Thanks very much, Jean. We're going to go to 2 questions online now with Aaron, and then I have a question here on the upper right, and then a question followed by a question on the upper left for the ushers.
Great. One of the questions we have that just came in is asking, there's lots of funding going towards new buildings, but what are the plans for assisting the aging buildings on campus?
So Dennis, are you going to answer this, or? I will start as you're getting the mic over to Dennis. the new buildings are being built not because they make our campus look nice, because we need them. And there are some buildings that we can't simply keep fixing them up and adding more. These new buildings are absolute necessity for our, not only just for our growth, but to sustain of our operations or academic programs. So I just wanted to make that distinction. As far as existing buildings go, I believe they are maintained to the best of our ability. There is not a single building that I know of. You may prove me wrong, but there is not a single building that I know of that we're letting it go into ruins, and they are being maintained to the best of our ability. Dennis?
Just to add, Ferdinand, that in terms of facilities maintenance, certainly we're proud of the overall the condition of our facilities. We actually do an annual audit of our facilities and rotate it, so that in over 7 years we have audited all our buildings, and generally our facilities are in good shape when we compare them to other Ontario universities who are sort of our peers because they operate in the same physical environment. The one thing that I think our physical plant does lack sometimes is modernization as opposed to maintenance. So I'd say our buildings function as they were intended to function when they were built in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, but they sometimes lack the modern amenities and we do have programs for modernization, but they're done, sometimes they appear a little bit piecemeal, partly because we do them sections by sections rather than whole buildings at once.
Thanks, Dennis. Aaron, one more question from online.
We've had many of them, so this has been fantastic. One of the things, there was a lot of talk about the student experience. One of the questions that came in that kind of encapsulated a lot of what we discussed online was, what is the University of Waterloo doing to improve the student experience, but more specifically the area of mental health?
Okay, Chris, I'm going to ask you to answer this question, but to give you an idea, this December, the Board of Governors will have its annual retreat, and the topic of the theme of the retreat is student experience. So that's how much importance we give it to. But specifically, Chris will give you a better answer.
Fair, and I'll just mention a couple things. Our health and counseling centers for student wellness have been brought under one umbrella in an effort to provide kind of a more holistic approach to student well-being. And so some of those integrations, I think, are already starting to pay off, and will continue to do that. The other thing that we have to start to be more proactive on is preventative and proactive wellness strategies. And I think that in the next 6 months to a year, we'll start to see some of those programs roll out of our wellness centers, where a lot of it can be peer-based and partnering with both the Federation of Students and the Graduate Students Association. But we have to develop those preventative, proactive solutions for students to keep them healthy, both physically and mentally, before we have to react to difficulties that they encounter.
Chris, can you mention the new facilities for our counseling services and the new...
Both our counseling and accessibility centers moved into new physical spaces in the Needle Saw Extension in the last 4 months or so, and so those are great new spaces and will allow for additional capacity to support students as well.
Thanks very much, Chris. We have a question here on the right.
Hi, yeah, so my question was, outside of entrepreneurship, what opportunities are there for students to become involved with innovation?
Mike?
So other than the obvious answer of co-op, which is an obvious place to get involved in innovation in the workplace, there's a variety of programs that we're building in part of Velocity to be able to teach people innovation skills so they can take those into the workplace or into their clubs or whatever. Velocity Alpha sessions are weekly sessions we run that teach people the basics of a business that are available and open to everybody. But the other one that we're working on is called the Problem Lab. That's where we're taking actually like distinct problems from industry, looking at markets, and actually showcasing the different things that are possible. And one of the avenues this is going to open is that we believe corporate innovation partners will show up and ask us for help building student teams and people who actually can go back into those companies and help solve their problems. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mike. We have a question at the back on the left here. Thank
Those
you.
of you who don't know, Mike Kirkup is the head of our velocity operation.
So I'd just like to ask 3 questions from a student perspective. The first is going to go back to mental health. So you were talking about being proactive with getting to students who need help with mental health. But we just got through our Hell Week. I'm an upper year engineering student, so we've gone through this before, but this week was terrible. A lot of my classmates broke down completely, and it's not something which is uncommon. I want to know what the university is doing to help those students before they need help, because our course content is already as difficult as it needs to be, and I understand that that can't change, but a lot of the time there's extra pressure just from logistics on the university's half, which I think could be avoided. Second question is campus safety. So when I go to other universities to visit friends, they have rules where there has to be a blue helpline within sight at all times. UWaterloo does not have that, and recently we had a couple of girls that were assaulted just outside of Velocity. If there were a blue helpline there, that would have helped. When I was in first year, I was at UWP, and the closest helpline was in the parking lot across from South Campus Hall. So that's definitely something I think you guys should address, and I'd like to know what's going on with that. The third is on a lighter note. I want to know what you guys are doing to increase cross-faculty collaboration. Thanks.
I'll start with the third question, and then I'll ask Katie on the safety, and Chris back to you on the, or is it okay? The first question. It is happening as we speak, and it's been happening for a while, that our faculty deans, every time we have a dean's council or executive council or among themselves, they are constantly looking at opportunities across faculties, both in terms of research but also joint academic programs. So this is an ongoing thing. We are, the provost, myself, and my other colleagues, we are bringing this to the forefront, because I believe that one of the most critical elements, again, distinctions of many universities will be as to how they stitch various programs together or cross-fertilize various programs. So we are working on this. There are several examples that I can give you later on, but it is an active conversation. Kate, you want to talk about safety, the blue line issue?
Sure. So I'm the director of safety, so partially on behalf of safety and university police. With respect to the event that occurred this past weekend, I'm not sure that many are aware of it, but there was an event, and I would actually really praise our university police. They were able to react within minutes of a request from our Waterloo Regional Police, who were not able to respond, and actually were able to make an arrest in that event. I don't have any other further information. However, it was handled very well by our university police, and I have to congratulate them on that. With respect to the blue light helplines, we do monitor the use of those. At this point, they're not used. They're used very, very rarely, and as everyone has typically a use of a cell phone, we've actually found they've been used less and less. So we do continue to monitor those, partially through, our university police officers are currently working through a campus-wide environmental safety audit, and they are dividing the campus up into sectors and conducting a safety audit and writing reports on those specific sectors, and then we'll be able to address those year over year as we progress through the reports. The second thing that happens with respect to auditing for safety is very directly tied to, again, our university police, the safety office, and housing is annual safety walks, which we conduct in the evening hours of all of our residences and the grounds around those. So student input is solicited during those. We have our dons go out to their residents to ask if they have concerns, and certainly those are brought forward, and we also take concerns as they arise. One thing I did want to mention, it's a little bit different than the idea of the traditional helpline, but we've just released an app called WattSafe. So we students, staff, and faculty to download that app, and it actually creates your own personal helpline in your hand. So no longer do you have to stand beside or be able to get to a helpline to be able to press that button, but you actually have a phone in your hand that can contact university police directly or 911. It's also got lots of tools and resources in it as well, but we are evaluating that as a means to put that technology into people's hands rather than, I think of in my sense, if I were in danger, do I want to stand beside a fixed fixture and be able to, and need to wait there? Do I want to be able to get somewhere safe? So, but we do continue to take comments and we welcome those.
Thanks. Chris?
Just on the specific challenges of a difficult week, midterm week, and a lot of programs and terms are known to be more difficult across the campus than others. One of the things that has been decided by the university just in the last couple of weeks is the implementation of a fall break. Starting next year, there will be a break in the middle of the fall term to allow students to try and gather themselves and spend time in the middle of the term helping them succeed in a better way. I do think that's not going to be the magic solution. So I think it's an important conversation about specific terms or weeks of terms that are known to be very challenging for students. I think it's obviously very important that we continue to assess students and run midterms and do things like that so that we make sure that students understand what they're being taught. But we do want to support our students to be able to do that successfully. And so I would encourage all students to talk to their departments, their faculty members who are teaching those courses to try and continue to evolve how we go through that process of assessment.
Thanks very much, Chris. Ferridan, we really have run out of time, but I would like to allow our online colleagues to have one last question, and we do have one last question from the floor. So we're going to go to Aaron for one, and then to the floor, and then we're going to have to wrap up. Aaron.
So some good news from the online conversation. We are the second trending topic in all of Canada, only second to National Sandwich Day. So hopefully we can get them next year. The final question we'll ask from our online community is why isn't UWaterloo part of the delegation of 11 universities going with the Premier to China today?
The invitation was this okay? The invitation was extended to us to join the Premier. When we looked at the agenda, we didn't see a tremendous role for the universities to play that trip. From my own experience, these trips are very good in terms of our ability to network with our leaders and be able to support their mission. We have our own trip mission is being planned to China, which is very focused, very specific, and we simply could not afford in terms of time or resources to make this trip twice. So we sent our regrets to the Premier. When she goes to India next February, it may be a different picture that will join her, but for this specific trip, we just didn't think that it will be the appropriate allocation of our time or resources.
Thank you, Ferridan. Thank you very much, Aaron. And to the floor.
Hi. Excuse me. My name's Bill Ratcliffe. I'm an adjunct in the environment faculty. I could ask lots of questions about lectures and those kinds of things, but there is a big issue, it seems to me, touching on innovation. I just looked at data recently, and it's been reported in the press numerous times, that the actual number of startups of new companies has been declining since the 80s. And how do we reconcile that demographic fact with the attention that is now being given to innovation? You'd think it was the only thing happening in town, and yet the proportion of employees working for big companies has just been steadily going up. There seems to be a mismatch there.
Okay. Probably we could spend a couple of hours on this because I'm not sure where you get your data. Mine is telling me a very different story, and Howard and the others could jump in. We are being very careful when we talk about innovation. Doesn't mean that we are just dismissing everything else we do here. And innovation, sometimes it is used in a very amorphous way that it's interchangeably used for entrepreneurship or doing something cheaper or differently. And one of the questions that I was asked recently, do you consider a hydrogen bomb as an innovation, or do you consider something, really for example, Waterloo pump as an innovation? Well, there are different ways to look at it. Obviously, the hydrogen bomb cannot be considered as something that's an innovation. However, it is based on the laws and principles of physics, and one day it happens. How it's used is a bigger question. So, to me, there is a very solidly established pathway that is telling me that the future of economies, all economies, including ours, will be very much dependent on how we innovate, either through our current businesses, say oil companies. It's a bad example, oil companies, but it's also a good example because they will just simply disappear because of the challenges we are facing right now. Or would they find a way to innovate themselves that they will continue to exist, but at the same time addressing some big questions? So that alone can be considered an innovation. Number of startups, as far as the University of Waterloo goes, it's been on the rise. These are student-based startups, either when they're students or students here already. They establish those companies when they're students here or soon after graduation. Year by year, these numbers are increasing. And it's not just they're establishing these companies. We have recent stats, Mike, from you, I think. The first-year survival rate is also increasing significantly. That means they're able to continue beyond their first year, that, hey, it wasn't a great idea. We had fun, but let's move on. They get significant attention and investment. So it's a very long, conversation. I'm glad you're raising the question. It is something, however, that large number of incoming students, you may have seen the slide up there, 54% of our students, first-year students, they come to this university with 90-plus entry average. And large number of them are coming here with two expectations: experiential education or co-op, and second, they believe that this is an environment where they could do exactly what you said, and they could start something on their own.
Thank you, Ferden.
This was a very short version of a very long answer.
I know, and it's a fascinating conversation. We've really come to the close, the end of our time for the town hall. And I think because it's your birthday, and because it's the president's town hall, the last word's really with you.
Thank you. As I said in the beginning, this was the moment that I was hoping we will have, and we did. I'm really sorry that this is not a 2-3 hour event. I thank you so much for, again, being here and thinking of these very, very important questions. Your questions, we're not just trying to find answer to those questions here and say, okay, I gave an answer, it's over. Your questions are making us think much deeper, and these are the kind of questions that are helping us shape our next phase of planning. On behalf of my colleagues here and everybody, on behalf of our students, faculty, and staff, which are represented here by you, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have a reception outside, and I would love to continue some of the conversation with you, and perhaps we can exchange more questions and answers. As I said in the beginning, we will have you will hear from Ellen or somebody about the unanswered questions. We will post those questions, and we will try to answer them as best as we can. If you don't think that you had the answer that you were looking for, feel free then contact me or any of my colleagues for a better answer. Thank you so much.